Okay, the meeting will now come to order. We'll begin with introduction of members, and we'll begin with town staff.
Dawn Gag, recording secretary.
And Dan?
Dan Beret, Town Planner.
And for commission members, we'll begin with introductions on my left.
Victoria Chechet.
Bob Ellsworth.
Chantel Foster.
Carolyn Freeman.
Robert Taylor.
Okay, and there will be no seating of alternates tonight. We have a full quorum. So next item is to accept the agenda. May I have a motion to accept the agenda as presented?
So moved.
And a second?
Seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, the agenda is accepted as presented. First item of business is a continuation of public hearing, application 22-15, 1401 Main Street, proposed two-lot re-subdivision, application and property of Cody Range LLC, map 68, lot 1, zone R-25. Now, I believe, as of last meeting, this is continued from last meeting, and as I recall, we were awaiting feedback from the Conservation Commission.
Pat, you want me to fill them in on that?
Sure.
Okay. So, yep, just so the board knows, Pat Benjamin is on, the engineer for the application. So, Conservation met, they reviewed the application. They did not recommend any open space. I think primarily the reason for that, if that was cited in the minutes, is the floodplain zone dominates that property, and that really restricts the type of development that can happen in that zone and in that area. So there was no recommendation for a conservation easement. So unless the board has questions for Pat, you could probably, move on and make your decision pending your deliberations.
Okay. Based on that information, does anybody on the commission have any further questions for Patrick or for Pat? Any further discussion?
This is for a residence, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I thought we said last time. I just wanted to make sure.
Right, I know that came up, but I just want to clarify that, so we're in the R25 zone. I believe this is, the intent of this subdivision is for residents, but once this lot is subdivided, in the future, any use that's allowed in the R25 zone that is compatible with this property could happen. So it is primary residential, but there, we can't really restrict what they do after the subdivision as long as they meet the zoning regulations.
Okay. Further questions? Okay, this is a public hearing, so if any member of the public would like to speak regarding this application, please make yourself known. We have no members of the public here in the room. Anyone on chat?
Nothing on chat.
Chat. Okay, thank you. So I would ask then for a motion to close the public hearing for application 22-15.
So moved.
And a second?
Seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, public hearing for application 22-15 is closed. Any further discussion amongst commission members? Okay, hearing none, then do we have a motion, Dan?
Do I have to read the whole?
No, we'll just make it a policy that just stop at the R25.
Okay. To approve application 22-15, 1401 Main Street, proposed two-lot re-subdivision, application and property of Cody Range LLC, map 68, lot 1, zone R25. 1, that the certified letter of approval be placed on the cover sheet of the plan set. 2, that all actions associated with this subdivision be completed in accordance with the approved plan before January 19, 2028, which is the date that this approval shall expire. That a licensed land surveyor certify that all lot monumentation and any required conservation easement markers have been installed in accordance with the plan and town policies. 4, that the Mylars be filled on the land records within 90 days of the end of the appeal period, and the 3 paper copies of the complete set of plans be submitted. 5, that prior to the endorsement of the Mylars, a digital file of the record subdivision be submitted to the town. 6, that all comments from the memo from Jeff Jacobson's 12/29/22 memo be addressed. Reasons that this proposal satisfies sections 3 and 4 of the subdivision regulations.
May I have a second to the motion, please?
Seconded.
Okay, we'll now vote. Victoria?
Aye.
Chantal?
Aye.
Carolyn?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Any opposed? There would be none. Okay, the application is approved.
Thank you for your time, I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thanks, Pat. Have a good night.
Yep.
Good
Good
night.
night.
You can stay with us if you'd like.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll now move on to our regular meeting. So there's one item here, and this is application 22-16, 662 Portland Cobalt Road, proposed site plan review for food truck hosted by Core and Restore Yoga/Spa. Application of Rosanna Singer and property of 662 PCMI LLC, map 22, lot 2, zone B2. Now, I understand the applicant is not able to make tonight's meeting, so we will not have any discussion on this application. Anything additional, Dan? Did I get it?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Next item is to receive in applications, so we have 4. The first is application 22-17, proposed amendments to the Town of Portland zoning regulations. So we have a number of changes here related to cannabis. I believe these are all cannabis related. Would you like me to read them all?
I don't think that's necessary, no.
Thank you. So this will be a, remind me now, this will be a public hearing?
That's correct, yes.
So do we have a date, a proposed date for that?
Proposed would be February 2nd.
Groundhog Day.
Okay. Next item then is to receive in application 22-18, 34 Gospel Lane, proposed special permit for change of use to add 2,950 square foot gym business to existing building. Application and property of MJS Realty Ventures LLC, map 31, lot 26, zone IP. Also scheduled for February?
Yes, yeah, that's a public hearing as well.
Public hearing as well. Next is application 22-19, 185 Marlborough Street, proposed site plan review for a tattoo studio, application of Stephen Gurin, and property of Rosario Agostino, map 20, lot 202, zone B2. This is just a site plan review, so no public hearing. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And then next item is application received in application 22-20, 127 Main Street, proposed site plan review for a new 2-story, 40,850 square foot commercial storage unit building. Application and property of SROA 127 Main Street LLC, map 19, lot 75, zone I. That's right as you come over the bridge, the storage area, the storage facility there. So they're looking to add on to that, it looks like. Okay, anything else to receive in? I don't see anything on the agenda.
Nope, that's all,
Okay.
Bob.
Then we'll move on to old business. So the online material repository and training.
So, I think it's just gonna be a theme that I email you the Google Docs link. Or, I can't, I don't know why, it's just inappropriate every time. So, I'll probably drop this from the agenda next meeting as long as everybody's comfortable with that's kind of our new workflow in the future.
Yep, work for the workflow. What about training now? Do we have any sort of a schedule for that?
I haven't set anything up. We did receive an email from the land use UConn Land Use Center down in Haddam. They are doing some online trainings, and it could possibly qualify as our training. So I can email that out to you guys if you'd like, and we can see if that's what you guys are comfortable with in terms of training. They do have the required mandatory affordable housing that's on there. So I can email, what I'll do is I'll email you guys that, and you can take a look. If you, I'm pretty open about what you want to do. If you think one of those is worthwhile and you want to do it, I certainly would try to support that as meeting, you know, the requirements of the new state statute for your training. But I just want to make sure that whatever training that you guys decide you want to do is beneficial. I don't want to make it, you know, just feel like, you know, busy work or something like that. I'd hope, you know, it would be beneficial to you, because that's certainly the intent. So I'll email it out. We'll get some feedback, I think at the meeting on the 2nd. I believe the training's in February, right after that. And we can take it from there. And I can try to arrange training, different training, either with Attorney Olson, or either our consultant, or I can reach out somewhere else if need be, to kind of, I guess, hit the sweet spot in terms of what you guys want to do.
Okay. Now, as I recall, we have until like January of next year to.
End of this year.
4 hours?
End of this year, yep.
4 hours of training.
Yep, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think it would, this is broken up into 3 training sessions that the Land Use Center's done. Certainly, I think we've talked about trying to keep it to an hour, doing it on Zoom, and if anybody happens to miss it, then, you know, they can do it at their own leisure. They would really just miss some of the, you know, the ability to ask questions at that time.
Right.
And I'm sorry, Dan, I didn't hear where you said the material that you're emailing us is from?
Oh, it's from the Center for Land Use Education. I think it's clear, but it's, they have.
It's clear.
Yeah, they have a building, I think that's the acronym, but
Yes.
it's the building down in Haddam, the UConn Extension Center down in
Oh,
Haddam that
okay.
they run these programs out of.
Yep.
Okay. Next item is potential solar regulation changes for sustainable CT.
I don't have any update on this one.
Okay.
I've been doing budget stuff, so
We have other things to do.
yeah, but there's just one small thing I believe that I have to finish up with you guys, and then we'll have completed our part, and then, you know, we can make the decision whether you'd like to move forward with some changes on the solar regulations, or if you wanted to leave them as is.
Okay. So we'll leave this on here then?
Yeah, I honestly, with the slate next meeting, I probably will shoot for the 2nd meeting in February.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, next meeting looks like a busy one. Okay, next item is electric vehicle charging stations.
I haven't done anything on this, but I left it as a standing item because I thought, you know, it seemed important, and it was a conversation
Yep.
that everybody wanted to have and potentially move forward with. I guess the one piece of information, and I can look for the state statute, it looks like the state is considering passing something that would require any new, oh, it's in there, yeah,
That's in
yep.
there.
Any new development, I guess I'll just go through that, with more than 30 parking spots to require 10% of EV charging stations. Did you have something, Rob?
Yeah, I looked it up. If you want, I can give you they gave you the bill number, the.
Yeah, I read through that,
But they
yeah.
don't tell you what section it is. So,
Okay.
It's section 5C.
See, like Charles?
Yes. So, yeah, it's Public Act 22-25, section 5C. And that's the specific section that it's pretty much more or less after January 1st of 2023. A commercial building or multi-unit residential building with 30 or more designated parking spaces need to have 10% electric charging stations that are supporting level 2 electric.
So there was a lot of talk in our planning listserv about this and the implications of this. so it's really a policy decision, but it does add potentially significant costs to any development that may or may not go in. So that's really getting kind of bandied about, and then it's part of a larger comprehensive bill that would affect other things as well. So we'll have to see how it shakes out in the legislature. We had this debate down in Old Lyme. I know when we were doing electric vehicle charging stations down there, really, that was the crux of the argument, whether it was appropriate as a policy decision to do, and if it was, it could be it could stop some projects from happening based on cost. I know the world's basically in many ways recovering from the supply chain shortages, but one thing that is still consistently a problem right now is electrical supplies, whether it's for residential or commercial. We talked to prospective applicant earlier, and I think they said one piece of equipment was like 40-something weeks out. So that is still something. So I know those costs are very inflated right now. Certainly, if we add this requirement, it's only going to add more demand. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I know the city of Groton does require this already within their regs.
So, go ahead.
That bill was signed by the governor.
Oh, so it's already passed?
May 10th of '22, so it goes into effect this year.
I did not realize that.
On the 1st, so it's an actual requirement now.
It says it's already here.
That sucks.
The bill also looked like it had a bunch of other things that impact current multi-tenant and commercial properties. So, I mean, it's not really our jurisdiction on that, but I think we should put more focus on at least the zoning aspects of it to make it easier if someone does have like a tenant request for, in relation to this bill.
Yeah, so right now, like for mechanicals, we don't treat mechanicals as requiring setbacks. So it does make those charging stations a lot easier here already than other municipalities that do consider, condensers, generators as structures. So, and I guess the last thing was, you guys obviously have read this better than I have. I think that legislation allows you to also increase that percentage if you wanted to. So I guess that's a policy decision that you guys can make.
So my mind goes right away to Brainerd Place.
That's already approved.
So this legislation then is not.
Well, we would have to look into see if, and I may have to talk to Carrie whether if they come back for another modification, if that.
It's just what
if
Rob
that-
said.
If that may impact them. I don't know if that legislation makes that clear or not. I don't know if they've considered that, to be honest.
It says all new construction.
No. So, is that?
Yeah, whether that's new or not.
Approved or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It hasn't already been approved, or?
Yeah, so I would say right now they wouldn't be required, but I would also argue, that will seriously impact. If they were to be required, that would seriously impact what they do.
yeah.
Because, that's upward of 30, that's a lot of.
The
A
other
lot.
sections of the bill would have an impact on them because there's, a tenant can request from the landlord, given certain, like, size requirements of a condominium and, like, other, like, units, they might have to install something upon a tenant request. So it might be worth them to think about it, but that's, I think, outside of our jurisdiction.
Yeah, and it would be tough because I know, like, with the large apartment buildings, they have underground utilities under the foundation, and those have already been kind of spec'd out, and those building plans are approved. So, I'm personally curious whether, how much more, slack they've designed into that system to add for these increased power demands.
You would think they might be planning.
I think
for it.
part of it, I'd be surprised if they didn't have some sort of stations there.
Yeah.
That seems to be a trend, considering it's so large, but,
I think it might be a selling point, actually.
Possibly, but again, the costs right now are quite difficult.
Okay, anything else on charging stations today? Okay. Riverfront overlay.
Yeah, so we kind of left it, I don't know if you guys had any more thoughts, or if you want me to try to go through that zone and see what might be missing from, what's allowed in some of our business zones. That might be an opportunity that's being missed right now. Because currently the area in question, that where the town is doing the remediation is zoned industrial. With the riverfront overlay zones, which gives it a little more flexibility. But I guess I could, maybe just give you a report back to see some of the things that might not be included there that you might consider in the future. Would that make sense? Would that make it easier for you?
What were do we have a list of things that were suggested to go in there? Do we?
No, mainly the feedback that the town got from was that some people needed more time, but some people felt that they were, because right now, the original RFP was for strictly restaurant, and they felt that was too restrictive. But the industrial zone doesn't necessarily lend itself to like retail and stuff like that. So that might be something that you could look at in the riverfront overlay zone. But it's really, in the end, up to you how you want to approach it. So I could, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Wasn't there a committee?
There was a committee for that original RFP recommendation. There is no committee now.
But what did they come up with for
Yeah.
suggestions? Just restaurant? Or was
Yeah,
that
they
it?
they said restaurant.
That was it?
That was it.
Oh.
So the RFP was for a restaurant down there, and we didn't get any responses.
Does it have to be a building? Like, could we set up like stations that would be like, something like a food truck could hook up to? Where they'd have certain spots where they could, like get permits and pull in, like.
Yeah, I mean, you could technically, if we added a use like that to that zone, yeah, you could theoretically set up a food truck park down there if the town wanted
That would be
to.
really cool, a gastro park down there.
It just,
Be really good.
and maybe that makes sense. All the utilities will have to be raised. So for each station, say, that you would have to have a pole coming out of the ground because it's in the flood zone. So any building down there that was going to be built was going to have to be, on piers.
But that's why the food truck idea is.
Might make sense, yeah.
Is a nice one because you take it with you.
Right, yeah, there would be a little pushback from the restaurants in town. But if that's the direction you wanted to go, we certainly can do that.
We could always have a food truck down there.
Right, no, I mean, that seems to be a trend that you can have a park like that with, 4 to 6 different food trucks.
There's that, I actually know the guy who runs that gastro park in West Hartford.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, so the town technically does have a town-owned parking lot where food trucks can go. That's where Mustard Dogs is down below the bridge. But certainly if you wanted to add food truck park, that a commercial business could come in and provide, all the utilities and stuff like that, that's certainly an option. Would you want me to see if I can find another town's, like West Hartford's food truck regs and provide that to you for your information and then, discuss whether that would work and
Doesn't hurt.
Because I mean, my questions would probably be more like, if we would have something like that and we set up like 3 spots for, food trucks, how would that work for like the town's benefit, like?
Well, so what I'm thinking is you would add food truck park as a use. A developer would come in and say, I want to put a food truck park here on this lot. And then they would design that as they see fit. And then you guys could, depending on how we set the regulation up, whether it's, maybe make it a special permit, and then you can weigh in on, how that, you'd have the most legislative latitude as to how that might be set up, and we also can incorporate other regulations to kind of keep it the way you might want it. But then, you can let the developer dictate where the sites are, how many food trucks could potentially be there, unless you want to say, you know, have some sort of limitation as to how much area, you know, say you need a quarter of an acre per food truck or something like that. You could maybe put a restriction on it like that, or you can leave it very open-ended, and let the market dictate it. So we could be pretty flexible as to how you'd want to develop that.
The idea is to attract people with different ideas to, I mean, we want that $500,000,
Right, right.
So we're, like, I would think that we would want to cast as wide a net as we could, and not just say like, food trucks, but all, like, I mean, you're right on the river, so, you know.
Yes.
The obvious would be like we talked about last time, this is something to do with some riverfront activity,
Right,
possibly.
yep.
You know, I just think that if we start getting too specific,
Yeah.
But we have to add,
we have to add uses.
specific uses,
Right.
yeah.
So the idea would be to come up with like kind of a long list,
Yeah.
is that,
But
Well-
it seems to me like we need more input than the five of us because if there was a commission,
Well, that was just about the RFP. So they had a commission about what to do with the site and how to handle the RFP, and they got behind a restaurant use.
okay.
Now, since that went out and it failed, we certainly will include that use as part of whatever RFP that they, you know, want to do, but you guys would be adding uses to the riverfront overlay zone that then may, you know, as Victoria said, you know, cast a little wider net and give
But-
entities more
and
options.
So, and I guess that I still think that there should have been a list out there somewhere where they talked about
I
possible
swear
things.
there was a
Yeah.
list.
That's what I
Because
think.
I remember weighing in on it. And it was a long list.
Yeah, I mean, we could
And-
just
and-
go- if
And I
we
picked
could-
like my top 5 choices.
Yeah,
So
if there was a
if the-
list, it would be a nice thing to
Well,
go
well, so, and
through.
this also doesn't just affect those properties. It's the entirety of the riverfront
Oh,
overlay
okay.
zone. So it's not just those, so it will affect broader areas,
Well,
but this is,
right, but we
this
would
is
look at it-
100% within your purview.
But we would look at it with that idea, with that understanding that
Right.
anything that
Yeah.
would go would, you know, would
Yeah.
be not just for this property, but
Right.
for anything in the.
Right.
But, you know, so whoever mentioned food trucks, and then, you know, it is riverfront, so
I don't have
there are
that.
options having
No.
whatever, boat cruises or this or that. I mean, all sorts of things.
Yeah, some of that's in there, but yeah, we can expand on it. But it's certainly, you know, whatever few things, you know, whatever list that is come up with, that's gonna go through public hearing to change the zone. And if somebody came to the public hearing and said, well, what about this? You could say, we could add that in at that time. Certainly, you know, we'll probably have this standing item on here for a while as we debate it. The public is always welcome to come and talk about these things.
So I'm gonna go back and see if I can find the previous minutes from that commission's meetings.
Yeah.
And see if there's,
See what,
see
they
if
came up
they
with-
published
Because your
a
web
laundry
was on
list
that,
or-
right?
Yeah, and I mean, I can provide you the RFP that went out.
No,
Mary
the
wrote it.
RFP doesn't matter because that was just for a restaurant.
Right, but that's what that commission directed Mary to do.
but
Right.
might there have been a longer?
Okay,
Right,
yes,
we're
that's
just,
possible.
we're interested
Ideas.
in getting other ideas
Yeah,
because.
maybe they
as-
had other ideas, and that was the one they
Right.
picked out of.
Yeah, so I think water-dependent use is already potentially one of the things in there, and it's kind of broadly written that you guys could decide whether that's a water-dependent use. I wouldn't mind adding some more specific type things, like concrete things, just, if something's a little nebulous, and it's really up to your discretion, it sometimes, it gives a little wariness or uncertainty factor to any, you know, potential application or developer, just because, you know, as much as they may want to do it, it's still then in your hands. If it's an allowed use in the zone, it gives them a little more confidence, moving forward. So certainly, we can keep that, and then, you know, as you guys would like to add or amend the list, we can take it from there. So we'll get the minutes. Bob, you want to send me, or I can look for the minutes?
I probably got more free time than you do.
All right, so Bob's gonna
I'll
come with the
take a shot
minutes.
at it.
All right, let me know how that goes.
Yep.
And then, you know, we'll get those out to you, and, you know, I'll send you the RFP just so you can see, because they had like a conceptual drawing in there of what it could possibly look like. So I know we're gonna talk about the whole zone holistically, but part of it's really aimed at that, but it might give you a better insight as to what was, you know, put out there for people to respond to.
I'm looking for that thing that I saw, but I haven't. Just to let you know what I'm doing on my phone.
Oh, you're not just playing with your phone, Victoria?
Yeah, I'm, you know, playing my game.
Amazon.com.
Playing words with friends?
Okay, let's see, before we move on, Dan, we had a discussion earlier this week about potential presentation.
Yes.
You wanna bring that up?
Sure, yeah, I was gonna mention it next meeting, but I can let you know. Yeah, no, it's fine, Bob. Desegregate CT, they've been around for a few different legislative cycles. They requested to do a presentation here at one of the planning and zoning meetings. I did let them know, I thought next meeting was a little too busy, so I was gonna schedule them for the second meeting in February to give a presentation, and then it, you know, with a follow-up Q&A for any questions that you may have, or if somebody in the public has a question, they could probably chime in as well through to you. So they have a website, I can forward that on to you. I think the legislative, it was like Live, Work, Ride. That was the title of what they're trying to offer. So I'll send you their website. They have some more information about that. And then they'll be here for the meeting, most likely a virtual for that second meeting in February.
Okay. All right, then we'll move on to staff report. Any correspondence?
None other than the desegregate CT request.
Okay, any update on Brainerd Place?
I believe the building plans that were sent to the ICC for Building E, the first apartment building in Phase 1, the review should be done by tomorrow. So once that's done, that building application can be processed, and, you know, they should be able to break ground.
Okay. We'll move on then to public comment. The commission will now hear any brief comments from any member of the public who would wish to speak. So we have no members of the public in the room. Anybody on chat would like to speak? Make yourself known, please.
Crickets.
Cricket. Nobody in.
The crickets are too loud, Dave.
Okay, then we'll move on to the approval of the minutes from January 5th. I just noticed one item. It has to do with, so on page 219, the voting seems to be missing some people. The people who voted in favor. So it looks like Chantel made the motions, Rob seconded it, and then we've only got a couple people there who are recorded as voting.
Right, yeah, it's the same people. So it would be you, Bob, who voted in affirmative, Carolyn,
Yep.
and Victoria. I believe that was just for a continuation.
Yes.
Okay. So we have that noted.
Okay. So any other comments on the minutes? Okay, then may I have a motion to approve the amended minutes, please?
So moved.
And a second?
Seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, the minutes from 1-5 are approved, and may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
say no. Okay, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you. Good morning, Bob.
Bob, you still have the motion?
Oh, yes, I do. I was gonna take it home with me.
Hey, that's not so bad, Bob.
Pretty good?
7:34, yeah.